Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last session of this inaugural ICISA Surety Week. We've been getting overwhelmingly positive feedback to the sessions, and that strengthens us in the conviction that people are hungry for knowledge in our surety section. Just to share some numbers, we received 856 unique registrations and well over 1,500 attendees at the previous 7 sessions. We will be sending you a survey next week, and we'd ask you to take a moment to complete the brief survey to help us improve for next time. Because we're planning to do a trade credit insurance event in September, October of this year. Watch this space. And the last 7 sessions, we've had mainly technical topics. This session is about us, the people. For the good of the industry, it is seen as imperative to be a diverse bunch. This matters, and it matters to attract and retain talent, to promote innovation, or said in a different way, to avoid groupthink, to take our societal responsibility, and not least, to promote financial performance. We decided to approach this topic by way of gender diversity in this first ICISA Surety Week, but it's by no means the only way. In this session, we're proud to showcase 3 remarkable women, Jennifer Klein, Annette de Groot, and Marita Kramer, 3 women in different stages of their career. Jennifer and Annette pre-recorded their interviews. Marita will be here live. Should you have questions to any of these 3 ladies, please put them on the chat. In case of questions to Annette and Jennifer, we'll be sure to convey these to them. And now, please join me in enjoying this very, very special session. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first installment of a 3-part mini-series, an interview of women in surety. Now, it's been said that we're not the most diverse industry as surety. And if you look at the numbers, they prove us right. But if you look at the power of our female colleagues that are in this mini-series, we might be proven wrong, and they might change this pretty fast. Now, I'm therefore proud to have Jennifer Klein with me. Jennifer is Senior Surety Underwriter at Swiss Re Corporate Solutions based in Frankfurt, Germany. Jennifer, welcome. Thank you for being with us, and please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Richard. Thank you for giving me the pleasure and inviting me and giving me the opportunity to speak about my experience here with the audience. As I already mentioned, I'm a senior surety underwriter at Swiss Re since 7 years. Actually, I first touched base with surety right after school, starting my career at Zurich Insurance and making my way up to being an assistant of a surety underwriter, where then afterwards I became surety underwriter myself at RNB, which is the German market leader. And then I had a different station at the bank as a credit risk manager. And now, as I said, I'm here with Swiss Re. Started off in a direct surety business in Europe. And now I'm working in the surety for banks team with a global mandate, and where we cover like undisclosed and silent risk participations.
Wonderful, and it sounds interesting, but what to you is so sexy about surety?
To be honest, I really love the job because it never gets boring. You actually need a combination of analytical skills required to do the financial analysis, which is essential in our business. And then, of course, you are in charge of the whole client relationship management, right? Because you want to support your clients and you want to help them find solutions. So basically you start off with sales, right? In terms of what are your tasks, then you do have the whole relationship management component. Then you even have legal topics because you look into the contracts and you negotiate them with your clients. You structure deals. You have the whole end-to-end process, basically. And then luckily, in my position, as I said, I'm having a global mandate. So I'm really looking at working with international people at various countries with different cultures And the good thing is I'm not limited to one sector. So I'm also looking into various sectors. So for example, today I could look into a telecommunications company. Tomorrow it might be a construction company. And the other day, maybe even a retailer. So it's really very cool.
That sounds pretty cool too. And usually if I ask the question, there is something about working environment, no matter if I ask males or females, what is important to you in your working environment?
I want to feel comfortable at where I am, because the job, as I said, and the tasks, they are very important. And I love it if there's like a broad variety of tasks. As I just mentioned, what is sexy about surety, there is definitely. So it never gets boring. And you do have changing environments. So I like the ability to really learn new things and grow personally, and also like work in like cross-functional teams. And then at the same time, when it comes to looking at a company culture, for me, it is important to work with people that are engaged, where you have people coming to the office and just be happy to be there, to interact and really helping each other. I don't like elbow mentality or nothing like that. I just like work together with my people on a confidential basis. And actually, that is what I really missed during COVID. I can perfectly fine work from home because like no one is distracting me. But I also like to go to the office just because I miss my colleagues, really. And that's really cool. And to build such a culture, it's very essential that you have a fearless environment, right? Where people can really like be themselves and speak out and collaborate, even if it's like raising topics that are probably not so positive or whatsoever, right? So that is very important for me.
That's clear. And what's positive for me is that you never once mentioned gender in this.
Yeah.
But what would you wish that women would do more of in their careers?
I think we could build stronger and larger networks supporting each other more, for example, by mentoring or coaching or even offering sponsoring to our female colleagues. And then I think women, including myself, we could just speak more of our own achievements, advertising ourselves more, right? Because even if we accomplish great things, be it winning a great client or just signing a deal or just managing a difficult situation, we always say, hey, that's my job. I just did my job, right? Instead of going, hey, I did great today. And then in the end, we kind of suspect that people will recognize and that we will be awarded. But no, we need to like stand up for our needs and we need to demand things. So instead of waiting for a pay raise, I need to like go to my boss and ask for it. If I want to have a training, go and ask for it, right? And just like really get out of your comfort zone and try new things and ask what you want. Because if you don't ask, then basically the worst thing that can happen is that you get a no. The best thing is that you get what you want. But if you don't try, you'll never find out.
Well, you did a great job of putting your boss on notice. Get out his checkbook now. Well done. Very close to this one. Did you ever feel underestimated as a young woman in your job? And if so, how did you prove yourself differently to people?
I need to say yes, unfortunately, especially like during my first years in the job, right? So when did I feel that people were not taking me serious, or when did I feel I was underestimated? I had situations where people were being arrogant, think they know the job better just because they are like much longer in it than I, trying to tell me how the business works, even I didn't ask for advice. I had people trying to overrule me and my decisions by just calling my boss and negotiating topics with my boss. And then I even had like people ignoring me in meetings. So I was asking a question and the question was answered, but the person was just looking into like the faces of the more senior people in the room. So that's actually not a very nice thing to happen. But how did I overcome these situations? There's a saying from the Obamas, like when they go low, we go high. So basically, that is what I try in this kind of situations. I stay relaxed, I stay friendly, and I don't take it personal. And I'm frank about what I can do and what I cannot do, right? I'm not afraid to ask for help or support or whatsoever. And then, of course, it helps if you do have a boss that supports you and redirects the people that try to overrule you to yourself, saying, hey, this is the person you need to deal with because she's in charge, right? And then basically, once the people figure out that they have to work with you, then they get along because, I mean, basically that's life, right? You cannot always choose who you want to work with or whatsoever. You just need to take what you have and deal with it.
That's a wonderful answer. On the one hand, because it shows that young women still have issues in the workplace. Yep. And remember, we all know this is 2022, right? So building on from this, let's say a young new colleague, female, comes into the office. You say hello, you say you're Jennifer. Now, what would you give her as a piece of advice when she starts?
First of all, I would not differ between male or female. So I would give the advice basically to every new joiner. I think it's important to really be yourself, be authentic. And as I already mentioned earlier, it's good to build a network internally as well as externally, because there will always be questions. No one expects that you know the answers to everything, but it's always good to know who to ask. So that is where your network comes in. Be open to learn new things, really challenge the status quo, raise new topics, and just show interest in the business and the people and be nosy. That would be the advice.
That's a pretty good piece of advice. And building on from an earlier answer you gave, network, role models. Do you have a female or a male, whatever, role model for your career?
Yes, I do have, actually, and she's a female. I can say that, because basically I need to say surety is not a job that you grow up and you say, I want to become a surety underwriter. So it basically happens by accident, and that is how it happened to me too. So I was very young, starting to work at Zurich Insurance in the guarantee department. But then there was a surety underwriter, and she was in charge of syndicated loans, so large clients, etc. And she had like a huge amount of experience in her life and her career already. And I became her right hand, and she really let me dive into every kind of little piece of underwriting, being it the analysis or meeting clients or looking into the contracts whatsoever. So that is how I got attracted to the job, because she gave me the opportunity to really like grow myself, find out new things, and just develop and see what I like. And afterwards I stuck with it, obviously.
And that has everything to do with curiosity, but also with stimulating people.
Definitely.
Is that what you do with your coworkers?
Yes, I try to. Well, obviously, you need to ask my coworkers if I'm doing a good job. But I'm always trying to behave in a manner that's like, I would want other people to behave too. And I think as such, you become a role model yourself.
Well, I'm sure you are a role model. Because you incorporate what a surety underwriter is. You've got common sense. And whether that's in your underwriting decisions or how you work with people, I think that's really, really impressive. And I think the audience can learn a lot from this. I also looked at your LinkedIn profile, of course, and I saw that you follow Tina Müller.
Yes.
Of Douglas.
Not just because of the hairstyle.
Is it only because of the hairstyle, or is it because she does so much in culture work?
Yeah. I really like that she's also open to many different topics and willing to learn new things. So especially when she joined Opel back then, like I'm from Rüsselsheim, so that's where my relationship comes to Opel. She was like being seen very critical, right? Because you came from a different industry and then a woman in the very conservative automotive sector. It was like, can she really do the job? But she did a great job, and she like really took a deep dive from really learning the basics of the business and to really coming up with a marketing strategy that was innovative. And that is how I got basically attracted by her. I was like, okay, yeah, that's an interesting woman. So, yeah.
Very inspiring. Thank you very much. And we'll leave it at this. I hope the audience put a number of questions on the chat, and we will be sure to send you those questions so you can have a look at them in peace and maybe respond to it. I'm sure you will.
Sounds awesome. And anyone who's out there, if you have questions to the job, feel free to reach out to.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you for having me.
And I look forward to seeing you live in person again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that was cool, right? What impressed me was her openness and her curiosity. And what blew me away is the part where she said, I felt people were ignoring me. Now, the audience today has just under 50% of males. And I think we can all learn from this. And probably the ones who did not tune in can learn even more. Now, I'd like you to stay tuned until we change to the next video, where Annette de Groot will offer probably a slightly different and very valuable perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in this further installment in the series Women in Surety. As our president said on Monday morning, strong women in a strong industry. With me, I have the pleasure to have Annette de Groot. Annette started her career at the Nationale Borgmaatschappij and is now the manager, surety and guarantee for Credendo in Europe. Welcome, Annette.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
You are so welcome. The pleasure is ours. Now, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Almost 20 years ago, I started as a surety underwriter, and I've been working as well as a reinsurance underwriter in credit and bonds for almost 10 years. And during those years, I have experienced different surety practices worldwide, for instance, in Canada and South Africa, in Australia, Malaysia, Georgia, Romania, Israel. So, yeah, many different experiences. And 2.5 years, I joined Credendo GSR. GSR stands for Guarantees and Specialty Risk. And as head of Surety Europe, whereby we have expanded our surety team in Europe with a new branch in Ireland, underwriters that are based in Austria, Spain, France. So due to the merger with Single Risk, we also have an office in Austria and in Switzerland. So we have now 10 branches there. So great developments. And outside, would you like to know anything outside of work?
Yeah, I'd like to know about you, please.
Well, I can't wait for spring to arrive to get on my motorbike. Last year we did an off-road motorbike trip in Kenya, and now we are able to travel again. I love also to visit tropical places where you can dive. And yeah, since now the COVID measures have been lifted, we can have dinners again and go out to other places. So that's great.
That's you, and I can only underline what you say, travel. Great. Listen, I heard you say the word surety with a lot of love and passion. What is so sexy about surety? What attracts you to the industry?
Well, it is rather a banking product whereby you deal with companies that are financially solid, and yeah, you have recourse in case of claims. And yeah, what I always loved about being an underwriter is that you have two hats on, one for the technical underwriting and one to develop the business. So meaning that besides the technical analysis, it's also people's business. So you need to find the right balance between business development and underwriting. And we believe in local underwriting, so therefore we have every country, we have an underwriter involved where you understand the market, are familiar with the practices, local companies, you understand the language and the local legislation. So yeah, this product really depends on the local legislation. Yeah, there are so many other aspects such as product development. Yeah, in some countries, for every law there is a bond invented. And yeah, because of this legislation, bonds can be different structured. For instance, what I learned for the mining rehab bonds, which you have, for instance, in South Africa or in Canada, usually they have a very long durations and large amounts are needed when the mine needs to be rehabilitated. And here in Europe, in Austria, there is a demand for mining bonds. So we try to understand, what it is all about. And the tenor is there limited by 5 years, and provisions need to be made and are mentioned in the balance sheet for these rehabilitations. So all the red flags of long tenors can be mitigated by these by the local legislation, and therefore we find it very safe to issue those bonds. And yeah, not only product development, but innovation also plays a very important role. For instance, if you have different information resources, that you can combine that, create algorithms, and with underwriting you need a lot of time to understand the risk. And if you can get having access to this different information resources, creating algorithms, that saves time. And but it does not replace the human interference underwriting. But it can be used as a first filter, for instance. What I also like is in surety, sustainability is now a big topic, and we as a surety provider, we can play a very important role with this. We are supporting lots of, for instance, solar projects in Spain. I think this is an important topic currently, and most of all is working with different cultures. That's what I love.
So I hear something about people. I hear something about technical know-how, about the law, societal impact.
Yeah.
I think I want to become a surety owner.
Well, we have plenty. We need plenty of people, so you're most welcome.
Let's talk afterwards, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
In the meantime, as a person, what is essential for you in your working environment?
talking about culture, understanding each other's culture. Um, I'm based in Amsterdam, very Dutch, and the Dutch are known to be very direct and as well opinionated. So you're very familiar with the Polder model, which is a method of consensus decision making. So leadership is important, and what I always use is this, within the decision making, that you have a kind of consensus, that people understand which direction to go and these kind of things. So open communication, receiving feedback, also celebrating successes. I find that very important in a working environment. So
that sounds really collaborative. That probably doesn't happen overnight. What does it take, in your opinion, to make a working culture collaborative?
Well, knowledge of these different cultures and group dynamics, and behavior is visible, but the underlying motivations and the common interpretations and value, these values by which this behavior is displayed is invisible. So it is essential. Also, if you do understand each other, what you expect from each other, we have great cooperations with cross border bonds, because we have those 10 different branches. We focus on being very quick and in issuing bonds outside of the countries. So, for instance, the other day we had a bond request for Poland, where we're not familiar with the Polish wordings and the language. So this bond needed to be issued urgently, because the ministry, upon the signature of the ministry, this bond needed to be provided. And I have a great colleague in Poland who was able to provide this kind of bonds very quickly, well organized. So it's great to be able to collaborate that well and serve your clients. So.
That means, as head of Surety Europe, you need to pick your people really carefully. What do you look for in a new underwriter in your team?
That they are also very opinionated, that they really understand the risk, and not only the strength, but really the red flags. If you understand them and picture them well in your underwriting assessment, mention them. If you don't mention them, then it's really a trigger. Like, okay, you took a decision, but this negative red flag was not mentioned. So they need to be very critical, but also open and flexible to be solution-minded, to find a solution. Surety is a great product because you can also mitigate the risk by requesting more securities. For instance, I always aim for counter guarantees from parent companies, because there is where the decisions are being made, and if that is your counterpart you talk to, they take you more they will take you more seriously if you ask questions, so it's easier to communicate.
That makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. So, after having heard all this, I am very curious to learn the best experience in your career, and I have the feeling it has something to do with people and culture. Is that correct?
Definitely. I traveled a lot during those 10 years as a reinsurer. And for instance, being on the road for 24 hours to get somewhere, the other side of the world, and then getting, having these meetings, getting to know the people, not only talk about underwriting, really, building relationships that still last, even though there are 10 hours of time difference. So I really like it's really people's business and the surety business.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Let's end this short interview with a question that some people may see as controversial, if I may.
Oh.
An old colleague of mine, a lady, said there is a special place in hell for women who do not help other women. Do you agree with her?
That is a strong word. I have a bit of a different connotation with this kind of sayings. For me, it's important not only to help women, but to help anybody. And to be able to help somebody, you need to understand their needs. So for me, I don't have this strong. I'm very opinionated, but not regarding this question. So we should help everybody. But you can only help if you really understand needs.
That's a lovely way to end. I would like to thank you for this interview. I think it's very, very interesting. I'm sure our audience thinks the same way. And I'll be back to you later for that job, okay?
Okay, sounds good to me.
That was cool, right? That was really cool. And what came to my mind is my first boss telling me when I started underwriting is only common sense. But there's this thing, you need to use it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. And that's what I hear in both these two ladies. Now, I've got the pleasure to introduce to you another lady with a lot of common sense. Marita Kramer, if you could turn on your camera, please, that would be lovely. And it's working. Marita, how are you? And your mic too as well.
Yes. Okay, I did. So
Wonderful.
You should hear me. Do you hear me by now?
I hear you fine.
Okay, great.
And I see you as well.
Wonderful.
How are you this lovely afternoon?
Well, it's a bit stormy here. So if you hear some background noises, it's a storm. But other than that, I'm fine.
Great to have you here. Great to have you here.
It's a pleasure for me. Thank you for inviting me.
You are so welcome. And up to now, you've got a most distinguished career, and it hasn't ended yet. Now, would you want to give a small overview of your career up to now?
Okay, so as a lady before, I have been in surety, credit insurance and surety for quite some time. So starting my career after I got my PhD was with the bank. So 16 years of my professional career I spent with Dresdner Bank, which doesn't exist anymore, in the corporate banking business and investment banking business. And then 99, I took over a position as a member of the board of Zurich Group in Germany, being in charge of credit and surety and fidelity. So, and this lasted for 16 years as well. And I enjoyed every day of this. So therefore, I fully understand what Jennifer and Annette said before. When you start this, when you are in this business, you stick to it. And after that, or even towards the end of my chairmanship with Zurich, I took over supervisory board mandates. So one was a bank, and later on with insurance companies, so with Allianz and Allianz France and Euler Hermes and Euler Hermes Re. That's what I'm doing at the moment.
Excellent. Now, I've got a couple of questions here for you, which I hope will interest the audience. I'm sure you can speak to them. And the first one is, if you start a new job, what's essential for you in your working environment?
Well, I mean, you don't think of it when you start, but because you are so eager, yeah, to get into your new job. But starting a new job is one of the most important and challenging parts of the professional's career. All too often, employees struggle to understand the cultural norms of the new organization, leading to a variety of workplace conflicts. This happens because most of the organizations don't explain the cultural rules to newcomers, and hires are so focused on the job and the new boss that they overlook the rules' profound influence. So for that reason, it is very, very important to have a thorough onboarding to get familiarized with the new organization, with their policies, the role in your own role in this organization, and the culture of the organization. I mean, we have heard a lot of it before in the presentations from Jennifer and Annette as well. So, and this also involves creating an environment which the employee is made comfortable enough to interact freely with his or her new colleagues and establish social relationships in the workplace. So it's that during onboarding, employees learn what the organization expects from them in terms of skills, communication style, and attitude. There are basically 5 dimensions that require attention and have the greatest impact on your ability to navigate a new job. So what does a new employer has to do? Firstly, he has to provide comprehensive information on the company's policies. And he has to provide role clarity to you. So give a clear picture of what your role is about. Who do you have to report to collaborate with, to get the job done as expected? And the third one, very important one, induct into organizational culture. So define what the company's culture stands for and ensure this culture is communicated properly. So, I mean, this culture should also be reflected in the company's vision and mission statements that are usually handed out when you take a new job. So the first point is to help to form social connections with colleagues. So this involves as well creating an environment where friendships between colleagues are encouraged. So usually you expect your colleague, the new colleague, to go around, you know, get used to his, her colleagues and do it him or herself. But I think it's very important that the employer guides you through this a little bit. You know, gives you a helping hand doing so. And the fifth point, it's a more long-term point. It's to facilitate training to you. And if ideally, you know, have a mentor for you, helping you, you know, to do the right steps in the new organization, take the right steps in the new organization. And of course, what do you do? I mean, you, as it has been pointed out before in these other presentations, is it's important that you ask for advice if you need it. So don't be shy, yeah, to ask. Bring in your ideas, bring in new ideas as well, be critical if necessary, and become a good team player. So the worst that can happen, and it happens pretty often actually, is to isolate yourself. You know, it's you somehow have to embrace the new organization, yeah, the new company you are in, and don't sit there and say, I do my job and that's it. I don't have to care, you know, too much, you know, about the others. So this was, given the time frame, a short overview of the main elements of a proper onboarding and should support the integration process in a new company. And now, toward the end, I mean, we have about 133 participants in this session. That's what I see here on the screen. You could ask yourself whether you had a proper onboarding when you started your last job. It would be very interesting to hear the answer to this question.
Thank you so much for that, because it provides a very different perspective. It provides the perspective of a top manager and has less to do with male, female, than with people being embraced and embracing their organizations. And I think we can learn. Turning more towards women in surety. So may I take advantage of your experience, in the sense that now, with a greater focus on shared parental leave and improved parental leave, do you feel there is a more balance now between men and women in taking care of their families, so balancing professional and family life?
Well, I mean, if you consider that the number of countries where paternity leave is enshrined in law has more than doubled to about 90 in the last 20 years, the proportion of men who take more than a few days of work when their child is born is still tiny. And most men cite fears of being discriminated against professionally, missing out on pay rises and promotions. That's what you always hear still. And so that means gender stereotypes have persisted, even though gender roles at work have changed substantially in the last few decades, with much higher numbers of women entering and staying in the workforce. A key factor, to my mind, is that gender stereotypes are not only descriptive, but also prescriptive. Mm-hmm. That means they signal what women and men should be like, including the idea that men should prioritize work over family. These stereotypes around gender require significant cultural shifts, as well as better institutional provisions of paid paternity leave. As long as leaders don't demonstrate that men won't be penalized for making use of such policies, not much will change. It is important to have, let's say, visible fatherhood champions at companies across different sections and departments, both to inspire fathers to take leave provisions. Some countries, and you may know which country it is, have made strides when it comes to men taking more parental leave. So it's Sweden. Sweden offers parents 480 days of paid parental leave per child that they are entitled to share. So men, father and mother, you know, make their decision how they share these 480 days. So, and this policy seems to be working. One study in 2019 showed that approximately 90% of eligible Swedish fathers claim paternity leave. Yeah, that's impressive, isn't it? An impressive number. So, and therefore there is hope, yeah? And I hope that the Swedish example will find its way into other European organizations as well. I mean, nowadays, I said there is hope. Nowadays, we observe some increasing interest of the millennial generation to take benefit of the parental leave opportunities. The younger generation of men sees themselves as family people. And so, well, it remains to be seen how this evolves in the future. So, as with other things as well, so sometimes it really takes a generation or more for a cultural shift. But I think we are going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think so too. And purely by virtue of when you were the boss of Zurich Credit and Surety, you were the only female CEO. Now, that has changed a bit, and not as much as everyone would like, but it is changing. So I share your optimism.
Yeah.
Having said that, the sector has historically been male-dominated, right? In your opinion, is this still the case? And do you think there are many opportunities for women?
You know, Richard, without having exact numbers, I think that there is an equal share of men and women, not only in surety, but also in the entire financial industry. When we talk about women and men in leadership roles in this industry, then your question hits the point. Yeah. The sector is still male dominated at higher job levels. And yes, there should be more opportunities for women in this sector than the actual share of around, I would say, 20 to 25%. Maybe you have an exact number, how this is in surety. Meanwhile, the industry recognizes the need for a long-term approach that aims to empower women leaders and support those as diverse points in the pipeline. This must be coupled with collaborations with partners and educational institutions to encourage young women to pursue careers in finance. All financial market participants should look beyond single candidates and instead actively build teams of diverse members, recognizing that diverse organizations outperform their less diverse peers. And this is common sense in the entire industry. I mean, that's the fact we are talking about. And many financial companies plan to use hybrid work models, which include more flexibility and remote work options as a key component of their workplace strategy. So hybrid models can benefit employees, but leaders should thoughtfully and deliberately design them to advance, not deter, women careers growth opportunities. It's particularly important for women employees to experience leadership examples in real life, in the form like, I can see it, I can be it. Yeah, the role model you have been talking about before. So greater gender diversity at all levels can increase firms' ability to promote internally. Widening the lens by considering additional qualifications and roles during succession planning may accelerate diversity efforts as well. So we have to make this business attractive for women. We have to create role models. We have to set up internal supporting teams like mentoring programs, being external or internal mentorships. So external mentorships are really interesting. I mean, I experienced this once with young ladies on their, certain step of the ladder, to make it further to the top. And they said, well, we like to have an external mentor because we can speak more freely and open, and don't have to be afraid that that's what we are, our fears we are talking about, our problems we are talking about, our problems with our boss are talking about. is being, finds its way back into the organization. So therefore, I think so external mentorships are really very, very good and helpful. So, and women, which has been said before, that are interested in a surety career should take the opportunity to network and meet others in the industry. This is very important, to build up a network and get to know from others, what they are doing, talking about, the pros and cons and what they like, what they don't like. That helps a lot. And you probably know that, Richard, there is an organization in the US called Women in Surety, like our session today, which was created in 2016 to form a first cohesive group for women in the surety industry to fill an industry gap, bring great minds together for support, mentorship, intellectual challenge, and to network with industry professionals. So, and I thought, that could be a best practice model for Europe and other regions, and ideally supported by ICISA. But you did the first step, by taking, this Women in Surety session today, and I think that should give it a kick and help as well a lot. So that's very short from my side.
Thank you so much. And I think we've got time for one more question. And I'd like to get an honest first-hand reaction from you. And that's about the following. In a previous job, I promoted a young lady to a first-line management position. And she was up to it. She was extremely good. And one of the other male first-line managers came up to me and said, "You just gave her the job because she was a woman, right?" This found its way back to the young female new manager, who was very, very sad. What would you say to that young woman?
Well, I mean, you offered her the job. You knew her very good. You know how good she was. Yeah. And that's what counts. Forget what anybody else said. Yeah. So be strong and believe in yourself. And you have been promoted by the right person who knows you best. And that's what counts.
And I think that's a very valuable piece of advice, not only because I said the very same thing to her, but I did realize it is hard for young ladies being talked behind the back. You're just getting the job because you're a woman. And I would like to strengthen everyone's back in this call and beyond this call, that when they talk about you in this way, you just let it slide off.
Yeah. But I mean, a man would have never reacted that way, would he?
It would probably have become a fist fight in the culture I was back then.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which is not good either. But a woman, I think there's a tendency to sit in the corner and say, "Oh, what can I do about this?"
Yeah.
I'm looking at the chat. And nobody reacted to your question. Did you actually have a good induction in the job you're in right now? So, ladies and gentlemen, there is still time. Please react to this. What is on the chat is when Jennifer said, "You'd have to ask my colleagues whether I'm doing a good job." I'd read this to you. Her coworker said that she does a good job. And I would ask her coworker to tell Jennifer that, because it does a lot of good. What I also see from Teresa Giraldo, thank you, Marita. Yes, we are very proud to work towards filling this industry gap. We're an insured.
Very good.
And then we see, and I'm seeing this now live, if we wait for other people to be good or proud or happy seeing us reach our goals, we risk to wait all life long.
Yeah.
That's correct, right?
Yeah. No, you just have to listen to Jennifer and Annette. I mean, I must say I enjoyed every minute of their presentations, and I'm so proud that they are so good, professional young women in this industry. Yeah, and there are probably much more. So we have to get to know them. You know.
Right. And as closing, with 3 hearts and 5 thumbs up, Nivedita, a young lady who I had contact with today but I've never met, in a very fresh new market, saying, proud moment to see women in surety having such valuable experience. Inspiration, exclamation mark. And that is what the session was for. To give all the ladies out there the inspiration to go do it, to go get it, because no matter whether you're a man or a woman, you've got a lot to add to this industry.
Yeah, and I think in together, men and women, we achieve a lot. Yeah, so everybody brings his special strengths into the team, you know, and this differentiates us from others, and that's very helpful, and that's very, in the end, very successful as well. So, and we should keep that in mind.
And that is a lovely closing to this session. Thank you so much, Marita. Thank you for being with us.
It was a pleasure.
I enjoyed this tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you. And okay.
And just to close this off, I am looking at my notes, and my notes are not coming out right. So that helps. Just a second, please. So this basically concludes ICISA's first inaugural Surety Week 2022. And we've brought you a lot of diverse topics, ending with the diversity topic. We are going to send you a survey next week, probably. And I would like to ask all of you to take a couple of minutes to answer this brief survey and to help us make it better, because we hope to be back to you in September, October with a trade credit insurance week. Different topics, different people, maybe a little bit of a different setup, depending on what you tell us. And we would be very grateful for your feedback. Let me end by wishing you all health and peace. The last couple of weeks, and especially this week, made me realize that we need a lot of both. So that is what I wish you. I hope to see you soon for the ICISA members, hopefully in Helsinki at our AGM. For all others, September, October in the Trade Credit Week, or around this little world of ours. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all the speakers. Thank you for all the panelists for their valuable time, their valuable contributions. Thank you probably to Microsoft Teams, which we've learned a lot of over the past 4 days. Thank you tremendously to the ICISA Secretariat, being not me, for putting in the hard work and doing the pioneering work for this one. And lastly, thank you to you, our audience. We were, like I said, overwhelmed by all the interest, by the very cool reactions, and this cannot happen without you because it's for you. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon.
So do I. Okay. Wonderful, wonderful job. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye all.